So this is something I've been working on for over a year to try and get together to do. It's a new series, so what I'm going to be doing is reading series from authors that were my favorite as a kid that I didn't read this particular series. So in this case, today we are reading the Capital Mysteries series, which is a series by Ron Roy, who wrote the A to Z Mysteries and the Calendar Mysteries, which are actually a series that came out. Both the Capital Mysteries and the Calendar Mysteries are series that came out after I would have been of the age to be reading these in general. But I read the A to Z Mysteries a lot as a kid. When I was the target audience for them, and I loved them. I also recently, last year, reread another A to Z Mysteries book and was quite surprised by it. So when I discovered two of the Capital Mystery series, a series I had never heard of that I did not know he wrote, I decided to hunt them all down, and I ended up actually getting them digitally from my local public library, because hunting them all down, and since they're out of print, got too expensive. Just beyond too expensive. Like, you have got to be kidding me expensive. So we didn't do that. Well, what we did do was this. And this is me reading the books, reacting to them, talking about them. I'm not going to hold back. Just like I would be as critical about an adult novel, I'm going to be just as critical about these novels. Yes, I understand they're for kids. Yes, I understand that children need different things in literature, but I also know that kids are smart, and kids can handle complex, detailed situations. Trust me, I know they can. And there are some things about this series that really, really annoyed me. You'll see that as you watch this extremely long video. I haven't edited it yet, and it's over an hour long. I'm sure it isn't sitting there that long for you. But, yeah, so I hope you enjoy, and let me know if there is a author that you grew up on that I should read their entire collection of work from. So yeah, okay. All right, I will see you guys in a second. Alrighty, so that is this. I need a good name for this series. I will figure that out and probably have it everywhere by the time you're seeing this. But, and it's really bizarre. Like, reading books that were set in the early aughts describing things like had to log online. I forgot that was a thing one had to do. Like, trust me, I get it, it's not that deep. It's a kid's book, that, like, the premise is ridiculous, right? Like, this kid figures out the president's been cloned because of a news article that nobody in the Secret Service, nobody that works for his administration, nobody in the CIA, has figured out. But this, like, 8-year-old kid has figured out. Which is why I like to point out that it sounds like a lot of those conspiracy theories. The difference is this is a ridiculous book, and it knows it's ridiculous, and it's like laying with that premise that it's ridiculous. I'm also pretty sure that her mom and the president are gonna get together. So like, that's gonna be interesting. But on to who broke Lincoln's thumb. Sounds interesting, at least. Yet again, the Secret Service isn't up to their job because she can somehow sneak around DC and go into private offices and get kidnapped again. And the Secret Service detail, which should be on her because she's now the first daughter, because the president and her stepfather at this point should be there. Like, she should have a Secret Service detail. Like, I forget what it's like to be a kid and think that you could easily just talk your way into like the security office at the Treasury building in DC to see the security tapes. Like, I miss what that was like, because again, as an adult reading this part, I'm just like, yeah, no, president's stepdaughter or not, there's no way I'm letting you in here and watching the security cameras. It's like just not happening. Not a chance. Like, there's no way. Like, it's terrifying. I'll explain why in a minute.
But this girl, they get assigned a project for President's Day. They each have to write an essay on a president. She's assigned who is the current president in this universe. And apparently there's an article about him not wanting cloning, human cloning, to be a thing, and all this stuff. And then he's left-handed, but on television he's writing with his right hand, which it can be mirrored, but whatever. She's like 7. Maybe like 10, and probably 10. And signing with the wrong dominant hand, as he has been cloned. And like, it works in the story, right? And it's really funny. But the scary thing is, there are adults that make leaps in logic like that and think they're real. Like, first off, that's not even how cloning works. Like, you don't get to get an exact copy of person. It's not a copier. Like, there's a lot of gene things that happen, and like, it's nice. Okay, that was truly bizarre. I finished it. So there was in fact a clone somehow. I'm not an expert in cloning, so I'm not even gonna talk on that. But like, the most ridiculous version of cloning I've ever read. But still fun, nevertheless. Like, don't get me wrong on that point. But like, it always amazes me that like a lot of books like this, and not just this, but like in general, will assume things like the Secret Service goes home at night. Like, you realize the Secret Service, there's always somebody on duty, right? And like, the president has a taste tester for actually this very reason of being like drugged by somebody. And there's no way that even if he had like an emergency meeting, the staff for like the West Wing might go home. But there is still staff at the White House. There's still Secret Service. There is still like wait staff at the White House, although I do think they eventually go home. Like, sometimes I forget how absurdist children's books are. Being an adult and being somebody who like still reads like some YA and some middle grade stuff, but pretty much, especially in the last couple of years, has switched to reading a lot of adult fiction. And I forget how just absurdist and how like taken for granted a lot of the absurdist content is. Like, the absurdity of this book would have not even raised a red flag to me as a kid. Like, it's still fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fun, and it took me maybe 30 minutes to read. I haven't read the A to Z Mysteries in a really long time, so I don't know if he did it then, but there's a lot of like over explanation of stuff that can happen sometimes in children's literature, which bothers me and bothered me as a kid, because like, children are smart, children can understand things, children that read can get it. Like, I also understand you need to be introduced to these things literally. Like, you need to be introduced to unreliable narrators. You need to be introduced to, which there isn't one in this book, but I'm just using it as an example. You need to be introduced into tropes and that kind of thing. But like, it's official. The Secret Service in this universe is inept. Okay. So basically, the president comes down with a cold, sends his clone, because that makes sense. Anyway, whatever. That he doesn't want anyone to know about. Okay. Anyway, putting that aside because that's just a little bit of absurdity. But anyway, her mom and the clone get kidnapped. Somehow. Because the Secret Service wasn't, like, super careful. Like the Secret Service is when the presidential detail. Okay, whatever. Again, putting that aside, let's just say the Secret Service is completely inept. The Secret Service is apparently so inept that they not only send a car to go get her, which makes sense, okay? Like, kids are smart. Kids are smart. They can understand more complex things than we give them credit for. And this just feels like A power fantasy, and B, like, dumbing down a really scary situation instead of like leaning into the really scary situation, which I would have preferred that the author did. I would have preferred that the author leaned into this and was like, hey, this is what's happening. No, you're not going alone because I'm a responsible adult. Like, I know when you're like 8, adults seem like weird alien creatures, and like we make decisions for children in our care to protect them. And in this case, these children, knowingly by the only adult other than her building manager, the only 2 adults in the world that know they are alone, is letting them walk home alone when there is an active kidnapper of her mom. Nobody's making arrangements to call her dad. Nobody's doing what they should be doing. Like, I'm not mad that the kids are acting like kids and thinking that they can go find her mom and like all this stuff and like save the day, because let's be real, they did it the last time, and the adults in this universe are completely inept. I'm mad that the adults are completely inept. Okay. I can't believe that got more absurdist, but it did. Okay, copyrighted 2002. So this was copyrighted in 2000. So this was written in 2002. Okay, so apparently, even though there were like 50 Secret Service agents there, the president's clone and her mom were kidnapped by 2 disgruntled former astronauts that failed out of the space program. And because of that, wait, we're not to the crazy part yet. Because of that, they somehow know all the off-limits parts of the Air and Space Smithsonian Museum. What the hell? I mean, what? Those have nothing to do with each other other than there are space exhibits at the Air and Space Museum. But NASA isn't involved in the Air and Space Museum. What? Also fascinated how much stuff the president in this universe is involved in DC in general, like the city of Washington DC. And the thing is, the city of Washington DC has a mayor, and we can talk about the absurdity. Actually, that's a very good video essay I should do, the absurdity that is the situation that is DC and why DC should be a state and all that. But we're not going to talk about that today. It's just interesting the amount of stuff that the president is involved in. Although technically this is on the mall, so because it's at the Smithsonian, so it could be seen under his purview. But this is the kind of stuff a mayor would do, not the president. Even though they are the same branch of government, this is the kind of thing that the mayor of DC would do. Because it's on federal property, they might have to get permission from the White House. But because this would be considered a domestic matter, and like somebody claiming to own this, which would actually have to go through the court system. And quite frankly, if I found out that I was a direct descendant of the guy who started the Smithsonian, I would just start getting way too freaking excited. And like, again, you don't go to museums to ask for money. Museums don't make money. Like, trust me, museums don't make money. Like, the amount of stuff that they have the president involved in that a president simply wouldn't be involved in is just really, really fascinating to me. Because a part of reading these books is actually for research. I'm trying to understand what a lot of people see a president doing in media, because part of my novel is sort of dispelling some of those myths, right? Like, my main character is going to be a president put in a horrible situation that she can't, she's trying to struggle dealing with all of this loss and everything and hold the country together at the same time. And this kind of thing just wouldn't be in her purview. It simply wouldn't exist. And you know, it's really important because this stuff has real world impact. There are people out in the world that think that the President of the United States has massive influence over things that happen in DC, the city, not in Washington, the capital. Casey's mom and the president are like totally getting married. All right, now we're going on to book number 4, which is one of the only 2 I have physically, and that is The Spy in the White House. I will say something that is really, really nice, and I wish we had more in adult books, is the illustrations. Like, just because I'm an adult doesn't mean I don't want illustrations in my goddamn novels. So like, let's bring in illustrations into adult novels, because look at how awesome this is. I want full illustrations in my novels. Who doesn't want full illustrations in their novels? Because I do. All right, I'm gonna read this and I'll get back. 3 stars for that one. It's fine. Nothing weird happens. Nothing extreme. There's like nothing to talk about actually. But let's get into The Spy in the White House. Stakes. The last 2 books have been so low stakes. We've gone from the president has been kidnapped with a clone who's going to force Americans to be cloned and make billions doing it, to her mom and the president's clone have been kidnapped, to some guy wants to pawn the federal government for money by pretending to be the descendant, like great grandson of the guy who donated the money to make the Smithsonian, to somebody stealing secrets about the wedding. It feels like the stakes are going down instead of like staying level, you know? Stole the thumb and then retributed it back. Again, stakes low. Even though in this one they do get kidnapped for like 10 minutes, the stakes are still like super duper low. It's just interesting, and I think that this is where the stakes are gonna stay. All right, I think the last one I'm gonna read tonight is going to be this one, which is Fireworks at the FBI. It's book 6, and we will pick this up again tomorrow, just because I'm starting to not be able to deal anymore. Like, these were not meant to be read one after another by an adult reader. These were meant to be read sporadically by a kid. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, I'm officially renaming this. This is not the Capital Mysteries. This is All of the Adults Are Inept Mysteries. Because yet again, these 2 like 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds are doing the work of federal investigators better and faster than the federal investigators. It definitely serves a place. It is not the kind of series an adult is really gonna go back and like. I'm gonna take a little break. I'm gonna go read something else. It is much more meant for my like reading level, and yeah. So I'm gonna go do that because I need a little bit of a break. Because I know why this author does this. And I think these are probably supposed to be like a step down from the A to Z mysteries in like reading comprehension skills kind of category. And I know why. It's like everybody said. It's starting to get on my nerves that after every single character said something, it's said. So it'll be like, Casey said, and then it'll be like, Marshall said, and then it'll be like, the president said, instead of being like uttered, stated, questioned, asked. Like, there aren't other adjectives being used to describe when people are saying words, and it's getting to me. So I'm gonna take a little break from this series. I will pick it back up after. And you're heading into book number 7, so let's get into it. Okay, so this one is about the Treasury, and they go on a tour of the Treasury, which I don't even think you can do anymore. I think that isn't like offered. I could be wrong though. Could be very wrong. And somehow somebody's been stealing like hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Treasury, and like, sorry, that was Ivy, just like stealing hundreds of thousands of like $100 bills from the Treasury Department in the Treasury building itself, and nobody's questioning any of it until the day after they go on their tour. Okay, sure, why not? Why not? Like, the president's clone, yeah, that's still a thing, is going out as the president in DC and is doing things like taking cabs. What? Okay, so basically that's all that happens. They figure out how somebody is stealing the money and whatever, because yet again, this is a universe where 2 8-year-old children are smarter and more capable than every detective in the entirety of DC and the FBI. Don't get me wrong, and it's nice to have something that's different. And again, you could really use these for a classroom teaching aid or a homeschooling learning thing, but like, this is not a series you want to read as an adult. And if I wasn't doing this video, I wouldn't continue, but alas, here we are. All right, let's get through as many of these as we can. I will pop in and give you my thoughts sporadically. But they all basically go with Leslie. 2 main characters end up going somewhere in DC. They end up finding something in DC. Sometimes it's the president's clone. Sometimes it's somebody stealing money from the Treasury. It introduces you to a concept of DC, a building in DC, a part of DC architecture, and a teeny bit of US government, but not a lot. And then a mystery occurs, and these 2 children figure out the solution without really any help from adults. So yeah, that's where we are. It's a wild ride. Okay, let's get into book number 10, Election Day Disaster. Something tells me this is going to be a whole lot better than election week of 2020, because that was an ordeal, or election day of 2022, because that was also a heck of a lot. Exhausting and stressful, and anyway, whatever. Don't get into politics because it's not worth it. Alright, we're gonna get into book number 10, Election Day Disaster. How they're laying this one out. They have the kids being more excited about Halloween and the Halloween party in the Rose Gardens at the White House than the election, because of course, why would they? And then they have later she goes into the room where they're hosting all the elections. I don't remember if he's up for election or if the party is just up for election or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't like really specify if it's a general or a primary. And a woman with uncombed hair, dark circles around her eyes, who's jittering, responds with, "Oh yeah, you're the stepdaughter of the president." I'm just like, finally, an accurate representation of adult in this situation. The question has been answered. It's general, but that's not explained. And this book does this thing that drives me crazy, because again, children can understand things. They are smart. Where it's like, oh, X person has the most votes, and that's not how one gains the presidency in the United States. For instance, Donald Trump lost the popular vote twice. This is an opinion, this is fact. And like, he lost the popular vote twice. And is the only president to have lost the popular vote twice. I keep saying that because it's very, very uncommon. But what you do to win the presidency is you win the Electoral College, which is very, very complicated. But to simplify, basically it is a winner-take-all system for specific states, and each state has a specific number of electors. And you need 270 currently to get the presidency. That's it. It doesn't matter how many votes are cast. It doesn't matter how things are swung. What matters is the Electoral College, and only for presidential races. So the Electoral College and getting to 270 is how you know. So in this case, from what I can gather, where there's not a lot of information, again, this is for children, but I still think we could do this because the kid who ran for president and the kid who became president are just like a grade level above these books, and they explain this stuff pretty well to this like age group. So I know it can be done, and I know it should be done, because civics education in this country is horrible. But like, it's close to midnight and they're calling it already, which is really, really early for a general election, even before the pandemic and the chaos and the recounting and all of that. Remember how this series started with the president having a twin, and then her mom and the president's, not twin, I'm sorry, clone, and the president's mom and her, no, the president's clone and her mom getting kidnapped? So this one jumps the shark again, cause what the hell just happened? So basically they're in Camp David because they take her friend and them to Camp David for the weekend kind of thing. And there are spooky noises and sounds, and apparently the Secret Service and the Marine Corps are just terrible at security. Marine Corps. Okay. Important. Because apparently there's some guy who's been like living under the floorboards at Camp David, who's also kidnapped a woman. No relation, I think. And has tied her up underneath the floorboards, and he keeps sneaking into the residency in Camp David. Again, not getting caught on any cameras by the Marine Corps, by the Secret Service, by any of these people that are very, very, very good at their jobs. Like I said, this series is the Secret Service is inept at their jobs completely and totally and utterly. And apparently now the Marines too. Good God Almighty, I just like when this series jumps the shark, it jumps the shark. What? Like, I'm not kidding. We just went from like a horse figurines that her mom collected, I think, if I remember correctly, because it's been a couple of hours. Her mom collected as a child, being stolen, to a man living under the floorboards and has kidnapped a woman at Camp David. Like, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what? Excuse me? Okay, alright, that's where we went, okay. So no, this series runs from, a Scooby Gang level shenanigans minus Scooby, to, oh my god, what the hell, rather quickly. And we're back to Scooby shenanigans. Okay, so this one, they take a train trip, which is totally fine. I just got back from a train trip myself, and thankfully they were not stuck with a 13-hour delay on the first train, and then a 7-hour layover and a 5-hour delay. And it was... Chicago hates me. Anyway, aside, okay, not Chicago itself, but like my family and traveling to Chicago, we always get stuck. Anywho, and they go on a train trip somewhere, and it's like, how do you ride the train? What do you do on the train? Plus, ooh, mystery. Again, we just went from man been hiding under the floorboards at Camp David who's kidnapped a woman to, ooh, look, random thing has gotten lost on the Amtrak train that we're traveling on with the president, and even though there are random people on here and the Secret Service isn't doing its job. Like, honestly, at this point, I don't know how President Thornton hasn't been assassinated. Because, like, the Secret Service in these books is at their jobs. They're just at their jobs. I don't know that much about the Secret Service, like, trust me, other than they got the president and they handle financial crimes. But, like, and the vice president, but you know what I mean. And, like, this does not bode well for them. Like, how? Stay of execution to a turkey or a couple of turkeys right before Thanksgiving. It's just, and they end up going to the National Zoo. I think I could be wrong. It's just a silly thing that we do. And these kids end up hanging out with a turkey and they get to pick them out because traditionally it's the children of the president and like the president's children's friends. They get to go to a turkey farm and pick out the turkey and blah 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 that does not get killed and eaten. And there's like a whole setup and video and everything. And she ends up arranging a protest to not eat turkey on Thanksgiving. So like, I kind of like this one because they're standing on the Capitol steps. They are protesting. They're protesting correctly. Like, I like this one because they're coming civilly involved. And then of course we go to the crazy. And the turkey is kidnapped, naturally. What's really funny is, I have this sticker on my Kindle. I was disappointed overall. I remember really liking these books because unlike Encyclopedia Brown, the A to Z mysteries actually felt like I was solving the mystery. They're very much cozy mystery for kids. And yet, the Capital Mystery series just didn't feel like that. A lot of the things that the main character leaps to are in the extreme. A lot of these are the kind of things we would see coming out of Trump rallies today. And that scares the living bejesus out of me. I'm not saying that Ron Roy has any connection to any of that at all. Do not misconstrue that statement. What I'm saying is that it is obvious that this character is written to be fanciful in their thinking and fanciful in what they do and going to extremes that are always proven to be right. And at the same time, these conspiracy theories sound like conspiracy theories I would see on the internet, that we would interact with, that we would laugh about. Especially the first book, The President's Clone, screams something that would end up like taking over Trump rallies. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to go back to this media, because it's possible that we're missing things that these people were influenced by. I think that's probably extremely unlikely, but it's definitely a possibility. So yeah. But anyway, that is how I felt. Hopefully in the next one that I do, I won't be as disappointed about this, because, geez, that was really unfortunate. I'm probably gonna go around the library and wander around the children's chapter book section and try and find an author that I read a ton of, that I didn't complete everything, that is not Marie Pope Osborne, because I thought about doing this series originally, and I was going to do all of the Magic Tree House books because I devoured those as a kid. And now, just to prove I'm not making up numbers, Magic Tree House books are that thick, but still, there are over 100 books. So that one's not going to be an option. But yeah, I need to go pick another author that I need to do this with because I still liked doing this. But yeah, so enjoy. Also, I didn't check to see if anyone has done this before. I have no idea if someone else has. We genuinely had the same idea. So yeah, I'm also considering doing that thing where I go back and I read my childhood favorites, so let me know what you guys think about that. But yeah, okay, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.